Warren Buffett built his career on one habit almost no one noticed. He listened far more than he talked. So why do so many intelligent, well-prepared people walk into the most important moments of their careers and talk themselves out of everything they worked for? Today's story will show you exactly what that costs. James sold consulting contracts for a living. For 3 years, he had been the loudest voice in every pitch. Quick with numbers, fast with answers, always the first to fill any silence in the room. He believed that was the job. There was a man in James's office named Leon. Older, quiet, almost invisible in client meetings. When he did speak, the room changed. People leaned forward, voices dropped. James had never understood why. One evening, James sat at his desk, staring at an email he could barely bring himself to read. He had just lost a contract, a year of work, 43 meetings, a procurement director he had sat across from every week for 12 months. Lost. The client had chosen another firm. No explanation given. Leon walked past and paused at his door. "You worked harder on that account than anyone," he said. "What happened?" James told him everything. Leon listened without moving. When James finished, Leon said, "You are not losing deals because you know too little. You are losing them because you say too much." Then he picked up his jacket and left. James drove home telling himself Leon was wrong. He was thorough. He was prepared. That was what clients paid for. You did not reach senior level by sitting quietly. But the thought would not leave him. He replayed the last meeting in his mind. He had spoken for nearly 45 minutes. He had laid out the strategy, the timeline, the pricing model, the contingencies. He had answered questions no one had asked yet. He now saw clearly, terrified of silence. Every pause felt like doubt. Every gap felt like a crack in the wall. So he had filled them, all of them. And somewhere in those 45 minutes, he still could not say exactly when, the client had stopped listening. What did the client say? He tried to remember. Almost nothing. He had not noticed at the time. The next morning, James found Leon in the small kitchen at the back of the office. "Were you always like this?" James asked. "The quiet one?" Leon laughed, a short, surprised sound. "No." He poured his coffee slowly. "I was the loudest man in every room I walked into. For 12 years. I believed deals went to whoever made the most complete presentation. So I prepared for everything. I talked until there was nothing left to say." He looked out the small window above the sink. Then one client, a man I had worked with for 2 years, called me in. He said, "Leon, I stopped listening to you about 3 minutes into your last meeting. I didn't know how to tell you." He was quiet for a moment. Not wise, wounded. "I lost that account. The biggest one I had ever had. And I spent a long time figuring out what he meant." James said nothing. For once, he had nothing to say. Leon rinsed his cup, nodded once, and left. That afternoon, James had a routine follow-up call. He had prepared 11 slides. He opened the call, said his name, and did something he had never done in 3 years of client work. He asked one question, then he stopped talking. The silence ran for 8 seconds. James held his breath through all of them. His hand moved toward the mute button out of habit. He pulled it back. The client began to speak. He talked for nearly 4 minutes. Things James had never thought to prepare for. Needs he had never known to ask about. James wrote every word down. He asked one more question. He stopped again. By the end of the call, James had spoken for less than 10 minutes. "I feel like you actually understand what we need," the client said. James had not explained a single thing. 6 weeks later, James walked into the glass-walled room where, a year before, he had lost everything. The same procurement director. A second chance. No slides, no strategy deck, 1 page of notes, and 2 questions. The client talked. James listened. When James spoke, he chose each word the way a careful man counts money. Slowly, deliberately, aware of the cost. At the end, the client leaned forward. "I think we should work together." In the corridor afterward, James saw Leon near the elevator. Their eyes met. Leon nodded once. Not well done. Not I told you. Just, now you know. James stood there for a moment, thinking back to the evening in his office when those words had first landed on him. Hollow, confusing, almost insulting. You are not losing deals because you know too little. You are losing them because you say too much. He heard them completely differently now. The loudest voice in the room is not always the most powerful one. When you stop filling every silence, people begin to hear what you actually have to say. Silence is not emptiness. It is the space where trust is built. Think of the last time silence made you uncomfortable and what you did with it. Tell me in the comments. Share this with someone who fills every gap. See you in the next story. The meeting room was empty now. A notebook sat open on the table, barely a page used. 2 questions, a name. Down the corridor, a door swung open, and the sound of a meeting spilled out. Voices talking over each other, filling every gap. Then the door closed, and it was quiet again.